The grand ballroom glittered beneath crystal chandeliers. White roses decorated every table, and hundreds of guests filled the luxurious venue. Tonight was supposed to be the happiest day of my sister Emily's life. Instead, it became the day my entire family discovered who I really was. I stood quietly near the back of the room, wearing my formal military uniform. Most guests barely noticed me. That was normal. For years, I had been invisible. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I had spent the last 8 years serving my country in places most people never even heard about. While my younger sister built a successful social media empire and became famous online, I spent birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings overseas. The result? To my family, Emily was the star. I was simply the soldier. And tonight, my father was making sure everyone knew it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad tapped his champagne glass. The room fell silent. Guests smiled, expecting a touching speech. He wrapped an arm around Emily. I couldn't be more proud of my daughter. Applause erupted. Emily smiled brightly. Dad continued. She built her own company before 30. She owns 3 homes. She's marrying an incredible man. More applause. Then his eyes drifted toward me. And thankfully, at least one of my children made something of herself. The room laughed. My stomach tightened. I heard several guests chuckle. Dad wasn't finished. Of course, Sarah tried her best. More laughter. She joined the military because she didn't know what else to do. The room laughed again. Every word hit harder than the last. I felt dozens of eyes staring at me. My face burned. But I remained silent. Years of military training had taught me self-control. Emily shifted uncomfortably. Dad. He waved her off. No, I'm serious. He pointed toward me. She's 32 years old and still takes orders from people younger than her. A few guests laughed loudly. The groom's father smirked. Dad raised his glass. But every family needs someone willing to sacrifice financial success. The crowd applauded. I stood frozen. Not because I was hurt. Because this wasn't new. My father had always measured worth in money. To him, service meant failure. Honor meant weakness. And sacrifice was something fools did. The applause finally died. I quietly turned toward the exit. Maybe leaving was the best option. Then my phone vibrated. One message. Unknown number. Stay where you are. Arriving in 5 minutes. I frowned. No name. No explanation. Just the message. Before I could think about it, the ballroom doors suddenly opened. The room fell silent. 3 men entered. All wore dark suits. All carried government credentials. The atmosphere changed instantly. Guests exchanged confused looks. The lead man scanned the room. His eyes landed on me. Then he walked directly toward my table. Every conversation stopped. Even the wedding band fell silent. The man stopped in front of me. Then, to everyone's shock, he stood perfectly straight and saluted. A full military salute. The room gasped. My father stared in disbelief. The man spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. Colonel Sarah Mitchell. I returned the salute. Yes. The man's expression remained serious. "Ma'am, the president awaits your arrival." Silence. Absolute silence. A champagne glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the floor. My father blinked repeatedly. What did he just say? The envoy ignored him. He handed me a sealed folder. I opened it. Inside was an official government authorization stamped with the presidential seal. The mission code alone told me everything. This wasn't routine. This was national-level priority. My heartbeat accelerated. I had only seen this clearance level twice before. The envoy lowered his voice. "The aircraft is waiting." I looked around the room. Hundreds of stunned faces stared back. My father looked as if someone had punched him. Emily's husband whispered, "Colonel." Emily looked completely shocked. "You never told us you were a colonel." I smiled sadly. No one ever asked. The room remained frozen. Dad suddenly stepped forward. "Wait a minute." The envoy finally turned toward him. "And you are?" "I'm her father." The envoy's expression didn't change. "Congratulations." Then he looked back at me. "Ma'am, we must leave immediately." Dad stared at the presidential seal. His face had turned pale. "What exactly does my daughter do?" The envoy paused. For a moment, I thought he might ignore the question. Instead, he answered, "Most of it is classified." A murmur spread through the ballroom. Classified. The word instantly captured everyone's attention. Then the envoy added something that changed everything. "But I can tell you this." He looked directly at my father. "Your daughter has saved thousands of lives." The room exploded with whispers. Dad's mouth opened. No words came out. The envoy continued. Several times. Emily covered her mouth. The groom looked stunned. Guests who had laughed moments earlier now stared at me with amazement. I wanted to leave. But fate wasn't finished yet. Suddenly another man entered the ballroom. Unlike the others, everyone recognized him immediately. Several guests gasped. One woman nearly fainted. Because the newcomer wasn't military. He was a cabinet secretary from the president's administration. Someone who appeared regularly on national television. The entire room stood. Phones appeared instantly. The official walked directly toward me. Then he smiled. "Sarah." I nodded. "Sir." He extended his hand. "Good to see you again." Again. The room erupted with confusion. My father looked ready to collapse. The official turned toward the crowd. "I apologize for interrupting the wedding." Then he smiled. But national security couldn't wait. Every guest stared at him. He then looked at me. "The president specifically requested your presence." A chill ran through the room. Not the military. Not an agency. The president. Personally. My father's face had gone completely white. And for the first time in my life, he looked at me with something I had never seen before. Respect. But the biggest shock was still coming. Because hidden inside that sealed folder was a secret capable of changing not only this wedding, but the future of the entire country. The ballroom buzzed with whispers. Everyone was staring at me. Just 20 minutes ago, I had been the forgotten daughter standing quietly in the corner. Now a presidential envoy and a cabinet secretary were waiting for me. My father looked completely lost. Emily stepped closer. Sarah, what's happening? I looked at my sister. I wish I could explain. The cabinet secretary checked his watch. We really need to go. I nodded. Then I noticed the sealed document still in my hand. The red stamp across the front read. I carefully opened it. Inside was a single page. My eyes moved across the words. The moment I finished reading, my expression changed. The secretary noticed immediately. You understand the situation. I nodded slowly. This is worse than I thought. The room grew silent again. Dad took a step forward. What is it? I looked at him. For years I had wanted his approval. Now I simply felt tired. I'm sorry, Dad. I can't tell you. The answer clearly frustrated him. But before he could argue, a security officer entered the ballroom carrying an earpiece. He hurried toward the secretary. Sir. The man whispered something. The secretary's face instantly darkened. Are you certain? Yes. The room suddenly felt colder. What happened? I asked. The officer looked at me. The threat level just increased. A nervous murmur spread among the guests. Threat? What threat? The secretary lowered his voice. We have reason to believe someone involved in tonight's wedding is connected to an active national security investigation. The room exploded into chaos. Guests began looking at one another. Several people immediately pulled out their phones. My father laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. Nobody else was laughing. The secretary raised a hand. Everyone remained calm. Then he looked directly at me. We need your help identifying the individual. I froze. Because I already recognized the name listed inside the classified folder. And it was someone standing inside this very ballroom. Someone my family trusted completely. Someone they loved. My heart sank. No. The secretary nodded grimly. I'm afraid so. Emily noticed my reaction. What is it? I couldn't answer. Because the name in the file belonged to her new husband. Daniel Carter. My sister's groom. The room suddenly felt like it was spinning. Daniel stood across the ballroom laughing with friends, completely unaware. Or pretending to be. The secretary spoke quietly. For 3 years we've been tracking an international intelligence network. My pulse quickened. The investigation led us to Daniel Carter. Emily's face turned white. What? My father immediately shook his head. That's impossible. The secretary didn't argue. Instead he handed Emily a photograph. She stared at it. Then another. And another. Her hands began shaking. The photos showed Daniel meeting strangers in different countries. Secret meetings. Cash exchanges. Encrypted devices. Evidence. Lots of evidence. Emily looked ready to faint. No. Tears filled her eyes. No. This can't be real. I wanted to comfort her. But I couldn't. Because I knew the evidence was authentic. The secretary turned toward me. Colonel Mitchell, we need confirmation. I looked across the room. Daniel noticed everyone staring. His smile faded. Slowly. Very slowly. His eyes met mine. And suddenly, he knew. He knew exactly why we were there. His expression changed instantly. Gone was the charming groom. Gone was the friendly businessman. For a split second, I saw something else. Calculation, danger, experience, training. Then he ran. The ballroom erupted in screams. Guests jumped out of the way. Tables crashed to the floor. Security agents moved instantly. Stop him. Daniel sprinted toward a side exit. 2 agents chased him. He slammed through the doors. I was already moving. Years of military training took over. I chased him into the hotel corridor. People scattered. Security alarms began ringing. Daniel turned a corner. I followed. Then suddenly he disappeared. Gone. The hallway was empty. I slowed. Listening. Thinking. Then I heard it. A faint metallic sound above me. The roof access ladder. I looked up. The hatch was swinging. I climbed immediately. The night air hit my face as I emerged onto the rooftop. Daniel stood near the edge. A helicopter hovered in the distance. Waiting. My stomach dropped. This had been planned. Every second of it. The wedding. The cover identity. Everything. Daniel smiled. I wondered when they'd finally figure it out. I kept moving carefully. It's over. He laughed. No, Sarah. It's just beginning. The helicopter grew closer. Wind whipped across the rooftop. Below us, police vehicles surrounded the hotel. Red and blue lights flashed everywhere. Daniel looked surprisingly calm, almost confident. Then he said something that chilled me. They told me you'd come. My eyes narrowed. Who? Daniel smiled. The people who know who your real mother was. The world stopped. My real mother. What did that mean? The words hit like a lightning strike. Because according to my family, my mother had died when I was 5. Daniel's smile widened. Looks like nobody ever told you. I felt my heartbeat pounding in my ears. What are you talking about? He reached into his jacket. Security agents on the stairwell shouted. Weapons were drawn. But Daniel wasn't reaching for a gun. Instead he pulled out a photograph. He tossed it toward me. The picture landed at my feet. I picked it up and froze. The woman in the photograph looked exactly like me. Not similar. Exactly. Same eyes. Same smile. Same face. And written on the back were 5 words. She is still alive. My hands trembled. Daniel stepped backward toward the edge. The helicopter was almost overhead. You think tonight was about me? He laughed. It never was. The wind roared louder. Agents burst onto the roof. Get down. Daniel looked directly at me one final time. If you want the truth about your mother. He pointed toward the photograph. Follow the coordinates hidden inside the frame. Then he jumped. The crowd gasped. Agents rushed forward. But instead of falling, Daniel landed on a suspended rescue line hanging beneath the helicopter. Within seconds he disappeared into the darkness. The helicopter vanished into the night sky, leaving only silence behind. I stood frozen, the photograph still clutched in my hand. The secretary arrived beside me. His expression was grim. What did he say? I slowly turned the photograph over. Hidden behind the backing was a tiny strip of paper. A set of coordinates. And beneath them, 6 words that changed my life forever. Your mother has been waiting. And at that moment, I realized the wedding scandal was only the beginning. The real story had just started.